listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to All About Movies, the podcast that's all about movies. I'm your host, Evan. Got myself a film degree, so I use it to talk about movies. I'm joined by Alix.
I also use my film degree to talk about movies.
And we're just gonna talk about a classic of the silver screen, the hit TV film, Mazes and Monsters. Now, you're a little extra qualified for that.
I am.
Being just a big D&D nerd.
I'm the biggest.
Dungeons and Dragons nerd. Frequently dungeon mastering across space and time.
I think one campaign is a little small for across space and time, but I appreciate the compliment.
Well, now the space, television, the time, 1982. Mazes and Monsters hitting the tiny tubed screens as an adaptation of a Rana Jaffe book, assuming that's right at all. Rana Jaffe being famous for the book Mazes and Monsters, which became this TV movie. And that's about it.
That's about it. So let's have a plot.
That's probably a good idea.
Description. Aside from just the interesting historical setting that we've now lured our listeners into.
The present, 1982.
Thomas Hanks takes to the screen as a young nerdy man running from his addiction to role-playing games, but is lured back in by some fun, flirty friends he meets at his new college.
That's true. One of them being the hot boy, big man on campus type. The weird pseudo-intellectual nerd who wears many silly outfits. And the girl.
The girl.
With her personality traits of the girl.
I have boobs and I will kiss you. That is her whole personality.
And she does.
Yes.
Eventually they're Maze Master? What do they call?
Yeah, I think they're called Maze. Yeah, they call him
Masters.
Maze Master.
Because this is generic Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, this is Don't Sue Us D&D movie. Which is probably smart because they did not paint a very good picture of D&D.
That's true. Eventually their Maze Master, being very depressed, talking to his pet bird, who can also talk. Not in in a hip Scooby-Doo kind of way.
Well,
but
like a parrot way.
Like a parrot, but it's not a parrot. It's some other talking bird.
Who knows?
I don't know a lot about birds. You're looking for the bird cast.
All about birds. Yeah. Podcast all about birds.
Yes, but this is about movies.
This is about movies.
Even when they were first on TV. So, this Maze Master, very depressed, he's like, "Hey bird, I'm probably gonna kill myself. That'll be wild." And we're like, whoa, what a depressing thing for this cheesy 80s movie. And then he's like, just kidding. Instead, I'm going to die as a character in the game. And then he's very sad, but he's like, you know what? Despite being a very depressed man, I'm going to turn this into something fun. And we're going to LARP Mazes and Monsters play in some spooky caverns.
That no one's allowed to go to. It's illegal. Like, they have to not tell the police they were involved in going to the caves so that the police don't arrest them.
Essentially.
Yeah. They're like,
So-
oh no, we didn't go to the caves, but we know Thomas Hanks loved these caves. And the cops are like, that's suspicious.
So they go to play their crazy interactive Mazes and Monsters game, which includes skeletons on strings.
It's honestly, like, really impressive. Like, the production value of their LARPing is, like, levels above the production value of the actual movie we're watching.
And it's kind of fun. It's a pretty fun scene.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Tom Hanks gets a little too into it. He goes crazy.
He plays a cleric, which I think is really important because clerics are connected to a god, and that's kind of what sucks Tom Hanks in as a character. He, like, gets too attached to this idea of serving a holy deity. Because if he was, like, a bard, I don't think it would work as well. Because he'd be like, yeah, my guitar makes people fall on the ground laughing or scream as their wounds open on their arms. Like, no.
Then he'd just be a weird Charlie Manson type. And
Yeah,
that's not what this movie's about.
no. This charming after-school special needed something that was more like, oh, I'm taken by this importance that goes beyond space and time and reason, and I have a god who listens to me and cares about me and wants me to be important. So I think it's important to say he's playing a cleric who is hearing voices that are telling him he's an important man with a mission.
And this is also voiced by Tom Hanks, the voices of
Which
the
is
deity.
Equally important and amazing.
That's true. Something that we skipped out on.
Was everything that led up to this, I think.
Well, there's not a lot. It's kind of
That's
just
true. It's a lot of them
hanging out.
playing Dungeons and Dragons or Mazes and Monsters. Everyone actually liking Tom Hanks for a while.
There's a montage of the girl and Tom Hanks romancing.
That's important.
Yeah, him eventually trying to get her to move in with him, and she's like, whoa, pump the brakes there, sailor. That's a little too soon. Mm-hmm. He's like, all right, but let me tell you about my brother who went missing some time ago.
And she's like, you know what? You're right. I will move in with you, because otherwise...
She doesn't move in with him.
Oh, she doesn't?
No.
Fuck.
No, she's just like, whoa, that's too soon. He's like, agreed, but let me put on you some emotional vulnerabilities. And she's like, okay, it's soon enough for that. That's fine.
Let's fuck.
Probably.
Like, they don't... It's not, like,
It's a
on
TV
screen.
movie.
It's not softcore porn.
But it is a big deal later.
Yeah.
After he starts going a little crazy, that the voices in his head are like, whoa, you holy man, you gotta start being chaste there. No doing your lady friend. And he's just like, well, I gotta get rid of her then. So they break up, but it's pretty chill. The lady's just like, this again, which is a backstory that I wish we got more of. 'Cause
Yeah.
it implied to me that she's just getting with a lot of probably gay men who are like, ooh, no, this physical stuff isn't gonna work, therefore none of it. So they break up, but they still all hang out a bit. And everyone's like, it's weird how Tom Hanks is kind of crazy and everyone else there's just like, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's alright.
Not that big a deal.
No, definitely not. And then he goes missing.
Yeah, and they're like, whoa, anybody see him? And everybody's like, nope. They're
And
like,
this
okay,
is-
I
yeah.
guess let's check these caves, or at least tell the police to check these caves.
Yeah, and this is where the police get involved.
And they're like, well, he's probably dead. We're just searching for a body at this point, but let's look in the caves. The kids are like, well, that's dark.
Yeah.
And the police are like, well, we didn't find the body, but he's still probably a dead body somewhere in there.
But in actuality, Tom Hanks has received a message from his deity that leads him to go to New York.
Yes, to the great magnificent Two Towers, and that he will find the Great Hall there, who I think is his brother's name, right? It's like Hall or something.
Something like that.
Some pun with
Some
it being
weird
a name.
thing, yeah.
And so he's there, and he gives his old lady friend a call once he kind of comes to a bit.
Once he's
after,
lucid.
Yeah, after stabbing somebody who he thinks is a monster.
Yeah, he's like in the... Well, yeah, because he's in the subway tunnels. Or, like, not subway tunnels. He's in some kind of transportation tunnels.
And
no, it's underground.
And then he runs away down to the subway tunnels.
Yes, well, they're like not...
After stabbing a mugger.
Yeah, and then this homeless man's like... People don't come down here anymore. And he's like, whoa. He's like, yeah. He's like, lead me through these tunnels. And the homeless man's like, no.
And Tom Hanks is like, oh, great king of the underground. Show me where I can get to the 2 towers. And he's just like, oh, the Twin Towers? All right, we can go there. And so Tom Hanks, now back to being crazy.
Yeah.
Is headed for the Twin Towers. His friends headed to come get him after his strange call.
Yeah, because they were like, New York, weird. Because he does tell them where he is. I don't know how they found him so well. Do you remember that?
They said that they were going to meet him at a specific place.
Oh.
And then he wasn't there. And they're like, where
oh, they
would
remembered
he be?
his note.
Yeah,
he wrote down 2 towers. They're like, isn't that like Lord of the Rings? What's going on here?
And so then they're like, oh, there's some Twin Towers over there. Let's check those out. And then they search. They do not find Tom Hanks for a while. They're like, where the heck is that Tom Hanks? And then they see him headed up to the rooftop. They're like, well, that's weird. Let's go find him. And they pop up there, and he's about to jump off the World Trade Center. Which was weird for me to see the World Trade Center just chilling on video.
Yes. After most of my living memory being that the World Trade Center no longer exists. Never really seeing much of it aside from like 9/11 footage.
Yeah, it's not featured so much in movies and TV.
It was really bizarre to see it in Mazes and Monsters.
Yeah.
to finally get an idea of what it looked like in there. Weirdly normal. Just very weirdly normal. Very not on fire. Very normal.
That's true.
Apparently invites catastrophe, though, as Tom Hanks is at the top, convinced he will fly once he jumps off the World Trade Center and not fall to his death.
But then the Maze Master convinces him to not jump off. He's like, you don't have nearly enough points for to fly.
Well, because he pulls rank on him. He plays along with the delusion. He's like, all right. So if all of this is real, then I'm still in control of the world you live in. And I say, you don't have enough points to use that spell. So if you jump, you're gonna die. And you don't want to die. You don't want to kill yourself. You don't want to kill this character off. No way. And they're able to, like, bring him back a little bit. And he's like, I don't know. He's not dead, which is cool. And then we get this weird epilogue, which is so sad.
That's true. We basically just get the 3 of them that aren't Tom Hanks. Mm-hmm. And they're just talking while in a nice long car ride, giving us basically the postscript, what is happening in their lives now. One's like, I think I'm actually going to be a business major. The other one's like, oh, I'm gonna do this other thing. And the girl's like, I'm still a girl. And so they keep on driving, and you're like, where are they going? Only to find they end up at the parents of Tom Hanks's house. And the mom, looking very sad, is just like, yeah, he's here. It's crazy, wild stuff.
Had to give up school and not go to school anymore.
The doctors say he'll be okay.
Hallucinations.
So they go see Tom Hanks, who's still knee deep in his crazy town lifestyle. Mm-hmm. He's just like, yeah, those woods over there, it's pretty scary. I think there's some evil.
And they all share a look, and they're like, they all share a look, and they're like, well then let's go kill whatever's scary in the forest. Let's go have an adventure. And the narrator's like, and we went and played with him one last time, and it was glorious. And then the sun went down, and we returned to our regular, not sad lives.
Yep. And that's the movie.
That's the movie.
There were a few times I kind of found myself unironically liking it.
I think that all, like, ends, though, once they get to New York.
It's a little wild in New
yeah.
York. I like the Tom Hanks finds a hobo to be a royal figure.
Yeah.
I like that he stabs a mugger.
Because he hallucinates him as a monster, and he's like,
That's
ooh,
pretty
I gotta
great.
kill this bitch. Poor mugger.
Pretty much a lot of it I enjoyed from the point of view of like, oh, you know, there's this guy slowly going crazy and, you know, there's all this Dungeons and Dragons stuff there for him to use in his delusions. However, when we get to like a point where the police are asking questions and they're like, oh, I hear that Tom Hanks was involved in
Mazes and monsters.
You know, that's a dangerous game for these kids. They go and they lose their minds.
Yeah. So this is what I want to talk about. Because watching the movie blindly was wild. But then thinking back on the movie in the context of it definitely being like an after-school special about drug use, like marrying the whole war on drugs with the like negative attitude towards Dungeons and Dragons that came up through like that whole satanic panic craze, you get this wild movie where it's just so much more interesting. Because you watch him go through all these stages. He starts out as like an ex-junkie who's gone through rehab, and he gets pulled back in by some fellow junkies, but it's like too much for him. He can't like live his life and be in this. It's either all or nothing. And so he starts, and see, that's why I think the cave scene is so important, because that's like his first, like, that's when he really like goes deep, you know? That's when he like, instead of like just having like taste here and there, he goes all in, and he just doesn't really come back from it. He has like moments where he's very lucid, but that's when we hear him like speaking to his god and really being in character, and they're all like, man, you were so good, that role-playing was great, and he's like, well, yeah, what can I say, my god was speaking to me. They're like, oh, you, oh, what a guy, what a character. And then it just kind of shows you his decline, and like, anyone who knows anything about drug addiction, drug abuse, like he starts cutting people out from his life. He feels he needs to live his life differently to accommodate his addiction. He gives up things he used to enjoy, very specifically sex. Really into it in the first part of the movie, and gets into this weird like religious culty mindset. And he's like, I am too good for sex. I must abstain and keep my body beautiful. And his girlfriend's like, I guess, man, but we can't see each other anymore. So he starts losing people, pushing people away. It's mentioned very early on that his grades suffered because of this, and I assume they continue to suffer after he runs away to New York and then has to quit school. And it just leads him down this path of hallucinations that lead to violence, that lead to confusion and sadness and concern from his friends, and they have to go find him and like have this spur of the moment intervention, and it leads him down this dark path of like suicide in the guise of freedom and all this just bullshit. And then he's like, his life is ruined forever because he's addicted to role-playing games, and he'll never stop being Pardue is his actual character name that he plays. Not Tom Hanks plays a regular dude named Pardue. No, Thomas Hanks plays Robbie, who plays Pardue, and Robbie is just Pardue for the rest of his life. And it is so wild. And then his friends at the end are like, yeah, we played one last game before going and living our lives. So his friends indulge one more time before realizing they have to go live a healthy life. Being scared off by the whole Tom Hanks being crazy and like not really like homebound, essentially. Like he can't go anywhere because he's gonna get murdered. And then the way the police handle it. You remember that?
They're so goofy in the way that they're like, we've seen this before.
I've seen this before. Kids getting into role-playing games.
He's gonna be dead in those caves.
And then like, they can't even show the cops stuff they have that might help, because they're like, well, then they'll know we play Mazes and Monsters. And they treat it like paraphernalia, like drug paraphernalia. It's so crazy how much this movie, just the story, tries to make role-playing games a drug analogy. And it's weird how much it works out for the movie. Like, I think they did a pretty successful job. Little confusing at times, but still pretty successful. Oh, man, what a film. What a ride. So I want to ask you, because we did the episode on the Dungeons and Dragons movie. How would you, like, put these movies next to each other and talk about them? What do you think is, like, similar about them? What do you think makes one better than the other?
Both are enjoyable in the way that they're goofy. Not great films in a literal sense.
No, not really.
One is... They're different in the way that one takes place in the world of Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
And the other kind of looks down on it in its generic form, Mazes and Monsters.
Yeah, Walmart brand
Dungeons and Dragons. And, you know, just one seems to at least be going at it from a way that they like D&D, even if they don't get its portrayal right in the movie.
Yeah.
Whereas the Mazes and Monsters is just like, no.
Stay away from this shit, kids.
You'll get hooked.
Yeah, I thought... So you had talked about this for a while. You had talked about us watching both these movies and talking about them. Because they're similar in the subject matter, while with, like, a different approach. And what's funny to me is just, like, how ridiculously different they are, but how, like, spiritually related they feel. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just, like, the subject matter and tackling it from different ways. But it's really fun to me that, and because like Dungeons and Dragons was like a 90s movie? Early 2000s?
It was either like 99 or early 2000s. I don't remember which. It might have been 2000 on the dot, I think.
Maybe. So, like, what's really fun to me is you have Mazes and Monsters. And this was maybe probably one of the first movies coming out that was about role-playing games at all. At least, like, one of the first live-action ones coming out about it. And the attitude towards it is just horrendous. Kind of like I said, the perfect mix of the whole satanic panic ideology and the war on drugs, which were both pretty pertinent to 82. And then 20 years later? Little give or take.
Yeah, it was 2000.
2000, yeah. You have Dungeons and Dragons, an equally disappointing film, but with a way different take. So you can just kind of see, like, how slowly but surely, like, Dungeons and Dragons is becoming less of this weird, like, sinister part of sinister, like, subculture of our society, which it never was, and more of, like, a mainstream, people are interested in this, we can maybe make money on this, which they maybe could have if it was better.
I mean, they made sequels.
Yeah, that is true. I don't know, there's just something really fascinating about me that these two movies exist in different times and with different attitudes, but they cover something similar, and they just do it so differently. I really enjoyed watching Mazes and Monsters with Dungeons and Dragons in mind.
Something that I wanted to ask you about, if you remember enough about it.
Sure.
Kind of the act of them playing the game, even though that's only in, like, the first third to maybe 2/3 of the movie.
Right.
How it compares to actual Dungeons and Dragons play. I know it would be more like the first or second incarnation of D&D at that point.
Yes, I think...
So maybe you don't entirely know how accurate they would be with each other. But let's just kind of compare, like, maybe how much they got right in terms of the way that the game functions and the way maybe the players interact with each other, and just kind of in what way was it accurate to the game?
Sure. So I think when this movie came out, yeah, Dungeons and Dragons was on its like first and a half incarnation, where they were like, it had existed as a thing for a while, but they were like starting to re-release it to be more marketable to a wider audience, or to be easier to understand. So it was pretty early on, so it's not necessarily a system I'm familiar with. So the functions that they're playing with and the just base of gameplay is not really what I'm familiar with. But first of all, it's a lot smoother gameplay, which is utter bullshit. Because if you know anything about the first few reincarnations of D&D, while they were like all playable, they're not nearly as easy to pick up on like 5th edition, which is what we're in right now, which is really easy to pick up on because I'd never played it before I got to college, and I watched like one session and I was like, great, I understand most of this game. So first of all, the gameplay was way smoother. No one was like dropping their dice or throwing their dice across the room on accident. No one was like struggling to do math really quickly. No one was like, oh, hold on, let me look up what the spell does. Like, everybody knew what their characters could do exactly and what exactly they needed to use. So it was like quicker gameplay, smoother gameplay, which I think you kind of need for a movie. But the other thing is, like, you definitely get the idea that while they're all playing this game because they enjoy it, they're also playing this game to, like, fix their personal problems. And I think one of the cops, like, makes a mention of it. They're like, oh, you know, these kids playing out their problems in these games in hopes of solving something. Which is, like, a common trope when dealing with D&D. I think even, like, She Fights Monsters? I don't know why you would know the name of it.
I something like that.
It's something, the play about D&D. Even that falls prey to it, where everyone's playing D&D to fix their problems. And that's just not how it goes. Like, every group I've been in, even though there are, like, a bunch of personal issues going on, and drama going on within the group, and multiple people hating each other or wanting to bang each other at once, like, gameplay is still gameplay. And usually it operates completely separate of everybody's, like, personal worlds. But those are not separate in this movie, which is kind of, like, central to the whole idea. Other than that, though, like, it wasn't too different. It was pretty accurate. It was mostly just, like, the ideal, streamlined gameplay. Also, they all met, like, multiple times a week. That was the most unbelievable thing for me. They were like, oh man, we're only playing, like, 3 times this week? That's crazy. I'm like, I can't even get people together more than twice a month to play D&D. Like, these are all college students who have majors, maybe part-time jobs, other interests, maybe not, since they're, like, junkies, quote-unquote.
I think that is kind of the thing, is they're all... It seems that all of their schoolwork's definitely slacking a bit.
Yes.
Until they come clean at the end.
Come clean. Yeah.
And also, they all seem to be at least kind of wealthy.
You're right. They don't have anything going on. They can meet as much as they want. Even though, like, in the most ideal group I've been in, we met once a week. And that usually ended up only being 3 times a month, because enough people would have weekend conflicts, or the DM would have a weekend conflict, and he'd be like, sorry guys, we're not doing it this week. So that was the most inaccurate thing, I think, about the portrayal of role-playing games. Also, they won't ruin your life. They won't make you go crazy. If anything, they'll probably help your life and help you not resolve your personal issues, but, like, just, like, de-stress you a little, you know? I don't know about you, but that's really how it works for me. Like, having not played in a while, I find myself, like, really wanting to play again, just because it's so nice to sit down and, like, lose yourself in fantasy for a few hours. I know you were pretty new to it when we started in our campaign. What did you think watching the movie? How did it compare to your like very little experience but still experience with like Dungeons and Dragons?
It seemed like a good excuse for those characters to get together at the beginning of it, which was primarily what I did it for, was to hang out with my friends and have a good excuse. They did eventually go off the rails a bit, and that was a little crazy. But it was nice that they used it at the beginning to all get to know each other, people who might not otherwise hang out. Tom Hanks being new to that college, it made him friends quickly until he ditched them all for bouts of insanity.
That is actually, that is kind of... I agree with that point. A lot of the friends I made throughout college were people I wouldn't have met if I hadn't known they were into D&D, and if I hadn't played D&D with them. So yeah, they weirdly got that right. Like, it's just a nice way to get to know people. It's a nice way to connect and hang out. Yeah, so I guess it's kind of split. And LARPing is like a different thing entirely. That's not ever a required part of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. It's beyond my level of nerdiness right there.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. It's costumes, it's staying in character, it's knowing your stats and your abilities so well that you can just go out into the world and be your character and pretend to be this person without tripping. And I'm like, I can't do that. No way in hell could I ever do that.
So I guess to kind of finish things off, I'm sure... any last things you want to say?
I love that Tom Hanks was in this movie.
He does sell it.
He really does.
He acts the heck out of the film.
Yeah, what was this? Like his second or third, like, film? One of his very first roles, yeah. But you can tell even there, he's got it. He's great. It's not that his, like, performance is just as shitty as the movie overall. Like, it's amazing. It's like he was acting for the movie Big, but still just in Mazes and Monsters. He's so convincing, and he actually plays it, like, pretty sympathetically. Like, he doesn't overham it. He plays someone who's mentally unstable very well. And I thought that was really great. I thought his performance was awesome, especially because everyone else's performances sucked.
I liked the detective. He was...
Okay, no, the detective was great.
In an over-the-top kind of way. He was pretty cool.
Yeah. No, Tom Hanks, great. Love that he's in it. It was the reason I kept watching, because I was like, what lengths is Tom Hanks gonna go to here? Like, what am I gonna see from Tom Hanks that I've never seen before? And the answer was him crying on top of the World Trade Center, convincing his friends he was gonna fly when he jumped off. I was like, ooh, I would have missed out on all of that.
So, either for the laughs or for a genuine enjoyment or any other reason, is this something that you would recommend to people? And also, would you recommend it any more so to Dungeons and Dragons fans over regular folks? Or do you think, well, where does this fit in with people watching it? Or should they just not?
I would recommend watching this movie if you're interested in role-playing games in general, because I think you'll get a huge kick out of just the wildly negative attitude towards role-playing games. I think it'll be a good, like, ironically funny watch. But if you're not into role-playing games, I don't know how interesting it is. You know? Like, I think you're missing a good chunk of, like, what makes the movie ironically enjoyable. And at that point, you might as well just be, like, a concerned mom on her couch, being like, tell me more about this Mazes and Monsters so I can protect my children. I don't know why I gave her a nerdy voice. I'm sorry. Not very accurate. But, yeah, I feel like if you don't know a lot about the core subject matter, you're just kind of watching propaganda and not able to, like, ironically enjoy it. And you're just like, oh, interesting. These people are crazy because they're nerds. Nice. But no, I would definitely recommend it for anyone who's into D&D. If you feel like watching a super trash movie and being blown away by how ridiculous this movie gets, definitely give it a watch.
Since you liked to make the comparisons, is it a better or worse watch than the actual Dungeons and Dragons movie?
I'm gonna say it's a worse watch.
Worse watch?
It was, video quality wise, alone, makes it so much worse to watch.
Gotta watch it on that full screen.
Yeah, oh my god.
As the director intended.
At that point, yes.
Yes.
Direct-to-TV release, meant to be full screen.
Oof.
No, I would recommend Dungeons and Dragons way above that, because it still gets bonkers, and it still goes crazy places, and why can't I think of his name? The villain, the main villain in that movie.
Oh, Jeremy Irons.
Jeremy Irons is amazing in it. Like, definitely go see Dungeons and Dragons, and then maybe a week or two later settle down with Mazes and Monsters and go, man, Dungeons and Dragons was like way better than this. I'm gonna go watch that again.
Well, there you have it.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime we want to talk about some Dungeons and Dragons roleplay films, for sure you'll be back.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Probably other films also.
Definitely other films. Avengers is coming up soon. I'll be back for that.
There you go. Nice way to date the podcast instead of anything else. That's all right.
They're all dated.
That's true. They're all pretty dated. All of the
radicals. Avengers ones are dated.
That's true too. All of our radicals and tubulars and hanging out with the Ninja Turtles.
Wicked.
Anyway, before we just go off on strange 80s rants, be sure to check us out on Podbean. That's a place you can listen to us. You can listen to us on Spotify, on Google Play. I think we're still on iTunes, probably other places as well.
Probably like all those weird third-party, under-the-table podcast places.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
You can check us out on Facebook. And we're on
Instagram.
Yes, Instagram as All About Movies Pod. You can check us out on there. Just, all kinds of places. And, you can like, subscribe, friend. I don't know how social media
Friend
works.
us on Facebook.
Friend us on, I don't think that works.
Follow us on Facebook.
Is that how that works?
Yes, it's following since it's like a page, yeah.
Okay. Heart posts on Instagram. You click the little heart, and
or
the
you
heart
double
lights
click
up.
the image.
I didn't know that.
It's worked like that for so long.
Oh boy. Anyway, as I figure out how to grandpa my way through all this, keep on listening. So until next time, everybody.